When it comes to recruiting cleaners, quite often it can be very overwhelming for a busy cleaning business owner to manage everything. It's part of what you do as a cleaning business owner. So you've got a stack of other things, and you've got to find this really great cleaner or a number of cleaners to work on your team. You've got all these CVs to go through, and you're trying to juggle lots and lots of things. So it can be very, very overwhelming. And one of the things that we do with our clients to relieve that overwhelm is we make applications their amigo. Okay, so their number one friend, your number one friend, is your application form. So I'm going to share with you 3 tips to make applications your amigo. So first and foremost, my best advice to you when you're putting together your recruitment process is not to request a CV. In this instance, CVs are really for different types of roles. I'm not going to go into it now, but for the cleaning role, really your application form is definitely your friend here, because that will help you identify who is suitable for the role and who is not very, very quickly. All right. So if you've seen my 3 ninja tips for cleaner ads, you'll know that your cleaning advert needs to be really intriguing, inspiring and compelling. And there needs to be no barriers to entry in terms of people applying. So what that means is obviously you could then potentially get a lot of applicants, and you don't have time to necessarily sit and go through everything. So what you need to do is make sure that your application sets those parameters to identify who is suitable for the job and who is not for that next stage. And then what your automated system will then get back to the people who aren't suitable, and they will get back to the people who are suitable for that next step. So this is really where applications can be your friend. So here are my 3 top tips to make applications your amigo. And continuing the theme of no expense spared flashcards, here is tip number 1. Your application form really needs to do the vast majority of work for you to make sure that you select the right candidates going to the next stage. So you need to make sure that your application form is really, really clear. And I've always found, and this is tip number 1, there we go, tip number 1, I've always found that where possible, checkboxes work the best. Okay, so for example, on your you might be recruiting for somewhere that's really rural, and on your advert you have put that having your own transport is an advantage. All right. Now we can't discriminate to people who've not got a car, but the only way to get to this job is by car. So somebody either needs to have access to a car or drive themselves. I did actually have a number of cleaners when I ran my cleaning company up in Scotland, and their partners drove, and that was absolutely fine. That's the way that they operated, and I was fine with that. So they didn't drive, but their partners drove them to the jobs, and that was absolutely fine. So I made sure that on my application, I got that they either had a car or they had access, or someone could drive them. Okay, so what that will do, the application will do the work for you. So anybody who doesn't have a car would not be successful to that particular position, but they may be suitable for other roles that you've got. So what the application form is doing is identifying potential cleaners for here and now, the job that you need to fill right now. Okay, but also creating a bank, a pool of people who are potential for the future, and I'll come on to that. so really, when it comes to application, checkbox where possible. And again, with cleaning experience, if for that particular role, it's absolutely essential that someone knows how to use a buffing machine, because you're not in a position to train them up for whatever reason, then if they check that box, then they get automatically put to the top. It is good to have some free text space as well, so that the applicant can put some comments in there on the application, because that helps with the interview process further down the line. But in terms of the boundaries and the parameters of that particular role that you're looking for, you want checkbox, because that helps then with the automated system to put the application in the right tray, as it were, automated tray, so then the automatic response goes out to that applicant. And if you've seen my other video on making sure that your business is the business of choice, then everybody who's touched by your recruitment process needs to leave feeling good. And the underlying basis of that is having communication. There is nothing worse than applying for something and then just never hearing again. Okay, so 2 reasons that's not great. 1, it doesn't give a great impression for your candidate. But the other thing as well is you might have people starting to ring you up saying, oh, did you get my application form? And you're not then in a position to check that, or your cleaning manager's not in a position to check that because they're not in the office. So that just creates extra work for you. So by having a really, really clear application form, it can do the work for you. So I love application forms for that. All right, so tip number 2. So my second tip is that your application form needs to be compliant. It needs to meet UK employment laws, and you have to be so careful. I don't even put salutation on application forms, so whether it's Miss, Mr, Ms, I don't put any of that on, because that's actually not relevant for the role, and it could in fact bias your the part of your process. And you need to make sure that your entire recruitment process is fair. So if anybody comes to you and says, well, I didn't get that, you didn't give me that job because I'm a man, or because I'm a woman who's over 50, or because, you can say, well, this is the, this is the process. Everybody goes through exactly the same process. Everybody's fair. At no point have I asked for this information or this information, so I wouldn't have been able to judge whether you were male, female, over 50, under 50, whatever. Okay, so you've got to make sure that you're compliant with UK law, so that everybody has a fair crack at the whip, and that what you are basing your assessment on is their ability to do the job that's been described. Okay, so that's tip number 2. Forgot where we're at then. Okay, so now we're at tip number 3. Your application form needs to be available everywhere. Okay, so it needs to be on your website, it needs to be on your social media links. You need to make sure that your cleaners have access to it, easy access to it, so that they can share it, because remember, they might have friends or family members who are keen to join. And obviously if they work with you and they're having a really great experience being on your cleaning team, then if they refer the application form to a friend or family member, that person is much more likely to be motivated to want to join your team, because there's somebody known already working for you. So that's a really powerful tool. So those are 3 things that can make applications your amigo, or your best friend, and really help reduce all the administration with your recruitment process.